Good morning, students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope that everybody has had a good week, and I hope that you're looking forward to a fantastic weekend. Students, in this class, we are looking at an IELTS Task 2 writing about climate change. IELTS Task 2 writing is a 40-minute task. It's the second task of the writing section. And today's topic, climate change, it's a hot topic, and it's definitely one of the topics that can easily be on your IELTS exam, whether it's the academic or the general version. Now, this is for the academic, but you could easily get a Task 2 writing topic for the general that's about climate change and the environment. Academic and general IELTS Task 2 are very, very similar. So regardless of which exam module type you're doing, you could get this question. Welcome Amrit, welcome Baljit, hi Amra. This is a members chat class. Everybody's welcome to watch. To become a member of our channel, click the subscribe button or click the join button beside the subscribe button. You should also subscribe to the channel to get our latest news, video releases, and hit that bell button to get notifications. This class is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there. For the general IELTS, visit us at gieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we have not only lots of materials, but we use these websites regularly in our live classes. So we use the textbooks and the materials from these websites. The websites look like this. This is our academic IELTS website here at aehelp.com. And you can click this big red button to join the premium IELTS package, the one that's just above my head there. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. We are an official British Council IELTS Test Registration Center and certified agents, so you are in great hands with us. Welcome Dwi, welcome Arda. Nice to see more members coming into the class. When you click this Join Now button, you can use this code pattern 20 for a 20% discount. And I will explain why this code is pattern 20 in just a few moments. Again, it's a one-time payment, doesn't cost a lot. For general IELTS, it's gieltshelp.com. And again, you can click this big red button there to use our premium IELTS package after you have made payment. Of course, we have some apps as well. And our apps are Academic IELTS Help for aehelp.com and General IELTS Help for gieltshelp.com. Those apps link to the websites so that you can learn anywhere, anytime. And for Instagram, you can follow us on IELTS_AEHelp or GIELTS Help, where we post our latest schedules for live classes, and we have lots of short videos and posts for tips and strategies for the IELTS exam and for learning English and good communication. If you have questions, you can send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com. That is my email address, and you can ask me questions about IELTS or the English language, and we will do our best to answer. And actually, I have a question for some of our members and our viewers as well regarding our latest video. We're wanting to get some clarity on that. We've got more classes today and tomorrow. So we've got reading for subscribers after this class, and then we've got speaking part 2 and speaking part 3 for members and for everyone coming up tomorrow. We also have classes on Lighthall. Lighthall is a really great new platform for live teaching and live learning online. So check that out. The next one will be Sunday the 24th. You can use this link to join that class for free. I just put it into the chat, so you can check that out in the chat. And then we also have another one the following Sunday on the 31st. Which will also be a class. Notice the time difference on the 24th, it's a little bit earlier. Now, we just released a new video on YouTube discussing the pattern change for the paper-based IDP test currently in India. And that video is right here. So, kind of an interesting news, and it's fairly big news, is that there is a pattern change for the paper-based exam in India for the IDP test centers. Now, of course, IDP has purchased all of the test centers from British Council in India, or all of the testing procedures. And we kind of have two questions because there's a new pattern, and it's a little bit confusing what's going on. So we want to get some clarity, because Rajveer says it's writing, reading, listening for paper-based, but we also have some people who said their pattern was writing, listening, reading. So the notification said writing is first, and then reading, and then listening. But some students are reporting that their experience is a little bit different. They're getting the writing first, and then they're getting the listening and reading. So we're a little bit confused, and we're trying to figure out whether it's both, whether students, of course students are correct, whether the notification has a mistake in it. Importantly, you do have to realize that writing is definitely first, regardless of whether we're looking at what students are saying or what the notification is saying. So I've got an interesting question for you, and a good way to answer this too is to write comments on the new video. So question for students, if you took the paper-based exam in the last couple weeks in India, was the pattern A, writing, listening, reading, or B, writing, reading, listening? We're trying to figure out if it's both, if it's just one and there's a mistake with the notifications. The other interesting question I have that we're trying to figure out as well, so that we can inform our viewers with correct strategies and information. So question 2 that we have, and this is it's good. Let's help each other, right? So the other question that I have is, if you took the IDP in a country other than India, have you seen this pattern change? Okay, and the reason for that, of course, is we're trying to figure out if IDP is just testing this in India first and then going global, or if they're doing this in other parts of the world as well. We just haven't heard anything from it. So we're really curious about the answers that you provide for us. Rajveer says that he's saying it's writing, reading, listening for the paper-based, and that is as per the IDP website. And that's what we're going off of, is the IDP notification as well. So that's why we're wondering. But we have gotten some comments saying that it's a little bit different. And again, it's possible that they're looking to test both of these. So they might be doing a split test to see which one is more effective. And if that's the case, then that would be great. Mal, the patterns definitely changed for the paper-based, and one thing is for sure, that the writing section is coming first. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, one fact is for sure: the writing section now comes first for the paper-based IDP test in India. So that's for sure. Okay, and this is obviously a change that's come after IDP has purchased IELTS from British Council. So that's, you know, kind of interesting, and we're going to definitely follow up on this and give everybody the best information. Yeah, and Rajveer says there's also some news going around about candidates sitting a single module. So, you know, IELTS is evolving, it's developing, and we want to stay on top of this and give people the best and most up-to-date and most accurate news possible so that students can mentally prepare and they can take the right steps in their strategies for getting ready the right way. So, of course, pay attention to the emails and information that you are receiving after you register for the exam. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that right now. So we will keep a close eye on the comments on this new video. We're going to follow up with you, and then we will go from there. Good morning, Zarina. And again, if you're from another country and you're doing the paper-based test, let us know what your experience is. We're wondering if this is just for India right now or if it's elsewhere also. All right, good morning, Zarina. Computer-based test, again, stays the same. So computer-based test, of course, it's a little bit trickier to change. It's still listening, reading, writing. So keep that in mind. All right, everyone. Again, we will keep a close eye on that and keep you updated. So let's get into our writing task 2. And again, for many of you in India, get ready to do the writing section first when you're doing the paper-based exam, okay? Before we really get into this question, just a couple of notes. A very popular question that we get asked is, what should I do, the computer-based or the paper-based test? And especially some of you might be thinking that now, since you know that the pattern is changing in India. So this is my best advice, okay? So here's the question that I'm going to answer. Which should I choose? Okay, lots of students ask this. Should I choose the paper-based exam or the computer-based exam? And there's a very simple answer that we have for that, okay? And it makes a lot of logical sense when you hear it. So the answer here is you should choose the computer-based exam only if you are able to comfortably touch type in English without looking at your fingers to type, okay? If you have to stare at your fingers while you're typing, it's probably better that you do the paper-based exam, because staring at your fingers and typing, you're much more likely to make mistakes. You're probably slower as well. So that's going to cause you issues during the writing section. Now, it's a very good idea to learn to touch type in English, okay? And there is a website called rapidtyping.com, which will help you with that, and that will help your writing skills, your grammar, your vocabulary. So, and it's free. Use the free software rapidtyping.com. I'll put that into the chat as well, okay? https://rapidtyping.com. Okay, use that website. I used it to learn touch typing, and that's why I'm recommending it. It's an old piece of software, but it's a very elegant, simple piece of software that works really, really well. So that's kind of my first big tip for you in this writing class, is learn to touch type. Amrit says, yeah, rapid typing is a good one. I literally learned to touch type. So when you see me touch type, and if you think that's pretty good, then then definitely check that out. Okay, so rapidtyping.com. We're not affiliated with them. They don't sponsor us or anything, but they are really just such a good piece of software. So check that out. Okay, so with that important information behind us, let's take a look at the task 2 question. First step is always to read the question really carefully and to paraphrase it. So here we go. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Definitely spend 40 minutes on task 2. It's worth 2/3 of your writing mark. So you need to spend 2/3 of your time on that. Here we go. So some people believe that humans are mostly responsible for climate change, while others think that it is a natural part of Earth's evolution. What do you think is the main cause of climate change, and what can be done to slow it down? Okay, so here in this question, we're presented with 2 different perspectives or 2 different ideas. One is that climate change is being caused by humans. The other is that climate change is happening because it's a natural part of Earth's life cycle. And then it says write at least 250 words. Now, another important note here, and our members, many of them know this, is band 7 to 9 essays almost always exceed 250 words. Okay. They are closer to 350 words. Okay, simply because it's really tough to write a great essay in that time, and that's why IELTS says minimum 250 words, and usually minimum isn't enough for the best being a band 8 or a band 9, so you need to write more. Okay. All right, so step 1 is to paraphrase the question so that you have absolute clarity and you have some good ideas and vocabulary for the essay. So that's why you paraphrase. Now, paraphrasing isn't necessarily your introduction, okay? If you think that just paraphrasing the question is enough for a band 7, 8, 9 for your essay for the introduction, it's not. Okay, a lot of students write a paraphrase and then they say this essay will discuss both these perspectives and give my idea. That's not original writing, okay, and it doesn't get the best band scores. All right, so simply paraphrasing and writing this essay will discuss both views and give my opinion is not original writing, and usually does not get a score over 6 or 6.5, even if you write it really well. Okay. Now, because your writing section is, if you're doing the paper-based exam, is coming first, then it's all the more reason to have better writing. Okay, you have more energy, you've got more focus. So all the more reason to be original and just write a good essay. Okay. All right. So let's paraphrase this question. That's our very, very first step. Okay. Do this with me, members, and then I will check your paraphrasing and give some of you some corrections. All right. Here we go. I'm going to do this. You do the same, and then we'll compare. Certain individuals think that humans are the primary reason for changing weather patterns. On the other hand, some believe that climate change happens as a natural part of Earth's development. What is your opinion, and what do you think is mostly responsible for the changing weather? Okay, so that would be my paraphrase there. And then when you paraphrase, make sure to check the original and check your paraphrase. So some people believe that humans are mostly responsible for climate change, while others think that it is a natural part of Earth's evolution. What do you think is the main cause of climate change, and what can be done to slow it down? Certain individuals think that humans are the primary reason for changing weather patterns. On the other hand, some believe that climate change happens as a natural part of Earth's development. What is your opinion, and what do you think is mostly responsible for changing weather? Now that I read this, I realized that I missed an important part here. And how can this be slowed down? Okay. All right. So I need to answer that question as well. And this is why I paraphrase, to make sure that I don't miss any important question. This is why I read both of them. Okay. Now I'm confident that I'm going to write the correct essay with the correct information. All right, we have our members here doing this as well. Let's take a look at some of the writing. Nice and fast. You want to practice fast writing. Of course, IELTS is a timed exam. So Arda writes this. Arda writes, certain individuals ascertain that human beings is okay, Arda, it's a little bit wordy. I would just take out human beings. Humans are guilty of climate change. Yeah, and that's right, Arda. People do think it's kind of a guilt of humanity. However, others believe that people have nothing to do with global warming. Careful with that, Arda. It might not be the case. I wouldn't say nothing. I would actually change this word to little. Instead of nothing, I would change it to little to do with global warming. The question doesn't say humans have nothing to do with it. It says that either humans are mostly responsible or the Earth is mostly responsible. It does not suggest that the Earth or humans have nothing to do with climate change. So careful with accuracy when you're paraphrasing. Okay, you have to make sure, Arda, that you do not include information which is not in the question. In this question, it doesn't say that it's either humans or the planet. It says that it's mostly humans or mostly the planet, right? So that's what we want to make sure we're writing on. Okay, we want to be really careful. And when you get to university, it's even trickier to be precise. So that's why you want to really go through these steps in university. And if you're not sure, paraphrase and then check with your professor. Okay, Arda, that's a hint for everybody who's going to university. You probably will write lots of essays. Most majors, if not all, have essay writing. If you're not sure about what you're writing, then you will get a low score. So it's very important that you check and make sure you're on the right topic. A good way to do that is paraphrase. And then before you begin your essay, go talk to your professor or send them an email. Send the paraphrase and say, hey, Mr. Professor, Mrs. Professor, is this what the question is asking me? And if they say, yes, that's correct, then you're off to the races. And you can say, hey, look, you told me in the email that this is what the question is. So it's a really good tip for that, okay? All right, let's check out what Amrit has here. We'll take a couple more, and then we'll get going on the essay itself. Here we go. So Amrit writes, Let me just move this down a little bit so we can get a good look. Amrit writes, some individuals consider that much of the blame for climate change lies with humans. Others say that it is a normal process of Earth's development. What, in your opinion, is the primary reason behind climate change, and what can be done to halt it? That is beautiful paraphrasing, Amrit. Really, really elegant. I like it. Okay, this is a band 9 paraphrase. No question about it. That's a strong band 9. I can tell that you read the question, you interpreted the question, you applied your own vocabulary and grammar to the question, and in a very natural and academic or professional way, you were able to paraphrase it. Amrit, good job, thumbs up. To be honest, Amrit, I think your paraphrase is better than mine and better than Arda's. So if I want to say who has the best paraphrase so far, I would say you do, Amrit. That's excellent. Halt it is a very nice way to say slow it down. Okay. Steffi Grace, welcome to our members. Please send me an email so I can hook you up with those exclusive videos. Okay. Beautiful paraphrasing, Amrit, really is. All right. Okay, let's take a look. Amra says, certain individuals think that human beings are primarily in charge of climate change, while others deduce it is a biological part of Earth's development. Okay, good. Amra, I'm not sure if it's a biological part, but it's more just a natural part. Biology means the living world. I don't know if it's connected to the living world, but who knows? So it's kind of a iffy paraphrase. What is your opinion about the main reason for climate change, and what actions can be done to decline it? Instead of decline it, Amra, I would say decrease it. Okay. Rajveer writes, certain individuals ascertain that humanity should be held accountable for climate change, while opponents believe that it is intrinsically connected to Earth's development. I love this word here, Rajveer, and I'm just going to copy this part. Beautiful paraphrasing. This is how we learn from each other. This is how we increase our vocabulary. So this is the last part of what Rajveer just wrote here. Intrinsically. Intrinsically, or another word we could use here, Rajveer, as well, it might be in your head, is inherently. Okay, inherently. So intrinsically and inherently means that it is originally a part of. Okay. Okay, it is originally a part of the being. Okay. Very nice words, very nice vocabulary. If that is new for some of our viewers, learn those two words. Those are two good words to know when you're discussing this kind of a topic, intrinsically or inherently. Very nice. Okay. All right. Dwi writes, numerous dialogues have escalated about the idea that mankind is the most responsible for change in the weather, while there are lots of opinions on climate shift as a part of Earth's evolution. Dwi, I made a few corrections there. Then this essay will discuss about the topic and present the writer's point of view. Dwi, don't write that. That's not good. Okay, it's not a good thesis. All right, that's not original. You want to be original, Dwi. So we are going to write an original, accurate thesis here in just a moment. All right, so good paraphrasing. We've now gathered some great vocabulary based on the different paraphrasing from our members. And now we can get into planning, okay? You should always plan your essay before you start writing, okay? So plan your essay before you begin to write, and you might spend anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes doing this, okay? First of all, identify the topic. So what are we writing about here? Okay, and this is where Arda, you're going to see how you can kind of fix that mistake or assumption with the next part, with the controlling idea. Okay, so what is the topic here? The topic should be quite clear. All right. The topic is climate change. Right? And it's, again, a very popular topic. There's a lot of people have had this or similar topic, a similar question for their IELTS exam. So certainly be familiar with it. So climate change is the topic. And what is the controlling idea? Okay. The controlling idea is humans or Earth is mostly responsible. Okay. And solutions to slow it down. Okay. So those are the controlling ideas. Those are what we need to focus on in our body paragraphs and in our writing. And that's what I mean, Arda, is that when you write that down, then you realize that it's not one or the other, but it's primarily. So who is most responsible for climate change? Okay. Rajveer says it's the main reasons for climate change and the ways to slow it down. Okay, good. All right, so we've got our topic, we've got our controlling idea. Now we need to think critically. Okay, so then think critically about these. Ask what, why, how. Okay. So first question we should ask, and it's a very valid question, is what is climate change? All right, it's an absolutely good idea to consider this before you write this essay, okay? So think about the topic, think about what this could be before you hammer out a 300-word essay on the topic. So what is climate change? When you think about this, what does that mean? What is climate change? Okay, what is the definition? So if you think about it this way, if I Googled climate change definition, what would Mother Google tell me is the definition of climate change? Okay, and I'm going to, you don't have to have the perfect answer, but you should have a clear, logical answer. You will probably get some different answers to this question online, so you probably get a couple of different perspectives on what this actually means. You just need one that is acceptable by most people, right? Zarina says it's the natural event in changing of the climate. Zarina, that's okay, but you should never define a word with itself. So I shouldn't use climate in my definition, okay? Mal says it's the sudden change of the atmosphere of the Earth. I don't know if that's accurate, Mal. So I agree that the atmosphere changing is a part of this process or this phenomenon, but I wouldn't say that that in itself defines what most people would consider climate change, okay? So Arda says it's critical differences in temperature happening with time. Yeah, Arda, okay, that's the best one so far. Okay. Amrich says climate change is a change in temperature. Baljit says it's unseasonal weather. Baljit, that's very subjective. That's unclear for me, right? So seasons are quite subjective, but I think you're on the right track. Rajveer says it's the alteration in the atmosphere which is manifested in various destructive forms like rising temperature. Okay, so I would, remember, this is IELTS. You're not doing a 2,000-word essay for a geography class. So I would say it is the drastic changes in temperatures and weather patterns from one year to the next. Okay, so that would be my best definition. Again, I'm not telling you I have the perfect definition. I'm just writing the definition that I think most readers will go, okay, that's sufficient. So I can agree with that. Climate change is drastic, or if you don't know the word drastic, you can use the word major or rapid. Changes in temperatures and weather patterns from one year to the next. Okay, so that's what I would define climate change as in this 300 to 350 word band 8, band 9 essay. Okay. All right. Now, before we think about the controlling idea, we definitely want to ask the next question. So good communication, good information comes from asking good questions. Okay. And the next good question that we have to ask ourselves here is, why is climate change happening? Okay. So again, IELTS is definitely a thinking exam. You're not just sitting there like a robot. You have to use your knowledge. They are testing you on your thinking skills. That's why there's an academic and a general version, okay? If IELTS did not test your thinking and your knowledge, then there would be no need for an academic version of the test, okay? So again, you have to be critical here. So why is climate change happening? And Amrit's got that. So why does climate change happen? So what's the answer here? Why does climate change happen? Okay, and this Mal is where I would probably explain what you do is, or what you're saying is that there are changes in the Earth has to be a capital here because we're talking about planet Earth and not just the Earth or the soil that, you know, trees and plants grow in. So there are changes in the Earth's atmosphere which affect the impact of the sun's rays on Earth's surface. Right? So that would be my simplest definition here. Okay? So it would be, there are changes in the Earth's atmosphere which affect the impact of the sun's rays. If you don't know the word rays, you can say influence or impact on the Earth's surface. Okay, so that's the main reason for climate change. Now, Amrit is saying nowadays many people are cutting down trees and using private vehicles. Amrit, that's more of the how, right? So how is this happening? Okay. So that would be the answer there. Okay. Baljit says, due to heavy emissions. That's the how, Baljit. But why is it happening? It's not actually because of the emissions themselves. So the emission itself isn't directly causing climate change. What's causing the climate change is the emissions are changing the atmosphere, and the changed atmosphere is changing the way the sun influences the Earth's temperature, right? So this is where you have to be very careful, everyone, because I can see that most of you are saying, okay, the reason climate change is happening is because humans are using vehicles. Students, here's an important piece of advice. Be careful about the influence of popular media when you are thinking academically. Okay, so be very careful of the popular media influence when you are thinking academically, logically, critically. Just because the TV tells you doesn't mean it's true. Or that it's the only reason. Okay, so you have to be skeptical. Okay, that means you have to question information, right? And so often, we watch the news and we always hear this, oh, vehicle emissions and human waste and this and that. Cutting down trees is the major reason for it. So, and then we start to believe it without actually, thinking lots about it. And yes, of course, before people start getting really angry, I'm not telling you that using or burning gas, burning petroleum and cutting down trees isn't a big part of climate change. So I'm not telling you that. Obviously, that has a big impact. But you have to think beyond popular media, okay? So because that will lead to original thought and strong essays. Okay, so go beyond it. Okay. Think of, think of popular media, Mal, but don't rely on it 100%. Okay. All right. So the reason why we have climate change is because of the change in our atmosphere, right? And then the next question, of course, is how does climate change happen? Okay, and here, when you're thinking about the how, think of visualization. So visualize the information. Now, for many of our viewers, you're probably realizing that our goal is not just to teach you English only, but it's also to make you think more, make you think better, make you think more critically. Okay, university especially is about critical thinking, and it's about evolving your thinking beyond just memorizing information from books, right? Your goal is to change the future. Your goal is to slow down climate change. It is to create a better world, and to do that, you have to rely on science. You have to rely on logic, on rational thinking, and we love teaching you these points. Okay, I love teaching you these points. Okay, so how does climate change happen? So burning fossil fuels creates a greenhouse effect, which traps the solar rays. Okay, so if you have this information, use it. If not, learn it now. If you sit the IELTS and you don't have this, it's not the end of the world. You can still write a good essay. It might just be a bit harder to get those high band scores. So burning fossil fuels using vehicles creates a greenhouse effect, which traps solar rays. Sure. Okay. Cutting down trees decreases carbon conversion and increases gases that lead to climate change. Okay, sure, that too. Okay, all right. So yes, that's definitely a big part of it. Now, let's not forget that this is the human element. Okay, so here we're kind of crossing over to our controlling idea. So this is the human part. Okay. All right. So how about the Earth's part? Okay, so how about Earth? So why would we say that it's a natural part of Earth's cycle? Okay, so what are we saying by that? Okay, why would Earth be responsible for climate change? And Rajveer says it's volcanic activities. I'm not sure. Really visualize this. Okay. So maybe something to do with volcanoes. Definitely in the past it had a lot to do with volcanoes. Think about it this way. Okay. Start asking yourself questions. If you're not sure, if you're like, well, why would they ask me that? Or why would people argue that? Okay. So again, visualize and use your knowledge. Okay, here are a couple of interesting questions that I would ask myself when writing this essay. Okay, has the Earth's climate changed before cars and cutting down trees? If yes, why? Okay, think about those questions. So, and think of specific examples, right? This is where some of you who so far have been thinking, well, Adrian's crazy. He thinks maybe humans don't even do anything for climate change. So here's a good question for you then, and I might be able to convince you to think outside the box, right? So here, let's do box parentheses, right? This helps you think outside the box. And the box is often media, right? The influence of popular media knowledge. So has Earth's climate changed in the last 200 years? Has it changed in the last 500, 10,000, 1 million? Has it changed? Did Earth always have this kind of climate? Or has it really always been changing before humans came along? Baljit says because it's a cycle of nature that wants to eliminate humans. Maybe, Baljit, maybe Gaia is upset with us and Gaia is a bit angry. But there are some logical answers that I would come up with. Mal says, yes, it has changed. So yes, it has. There have been drastic changes or major changes in climate in the last 100 years, 1,000 years. Think about the mini ice age. If some of you don't know about this, then Google it later. Okay, we have had a mini ice age in the last 1,000 years. Okay. Of course, 10,000 years, the Ice Age. Last year, here in Victoria anyway, we had some really hot days in the summer that were very unusual. The temperature got up to 40, 45, and people were calling it a heat dome. And then they said, oh, we haven't had this weather for 100 years. Maybe you've heard this as well, right, in the news. Like, oh, we had these record-breaking temperatures 100 years ago. Okay, well, correct me if I'm mistaken, but 100 years ago, we didn't have this many cars. So then how did we have those very high temperatures 100 years ago? So if I had, and this is true, okay, this was in the media, so if we had a record breaking temperature last summer that hasn't or has not, let's not use contractions, has not been felt for 100 years, then 100 years ago, why did it happen without cars? Okay, so I'm not, again, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that cars aren't doing their part in climate change. I'm just saying that maybe there's also truth to climate change being a natural part of Earth's cycle, and whether or not we're using cars, climate change would eventually happen, right? So even if we suddenly all started using electric cars, then that would start happening. Now, some of you are thinking, whoa, Adrian, 40 minutes. We only got 40 minutes for this task. We don't have an hour and a half like what you're showing us right now. Then I would say, yes, you're right. But if you train your thinking and if you're able to visualize and think critically, quickly, you can think about all of this in 3 to 5 minutes. So you can come up with the idea of, okay, climate change, what is that? How does that happen? Okay, there's humans driving around all these cars, puffing out all this gas, but then let's take a look at Earth. Okay, has Earth had climate change 100 years ago? Yes, it has. I mean, there's been some major changes in climate, and humans weren't nearly as evolved, and there were a lot of trees. By the way, going back to trees, here's an interesting little fact for you. Trees produce roughly 30%, or digest, I should say, roughly 30% of CO2 emission, or atmospheric CO2, and ocean algae digest 70%. So yes, obviously trees are major contributors. Again, I'm not saying let's not cut down trees, right? So we should save trees and forests. They're a beautiful part of nature and our human lives. So don't go out and go, hey, Adrian told us trees don't matter, let's go cut them down. No, I'm not telling you that. We need trees, okay? We live on land. But obviously the oceans are much bigger, much deeper, and have a much bigger biomass of algae and plants. That makes sense, right? If you think about it, oceans are way bigger than land, and it's about a 30 to 70% difference. So it's no surprise that oceans are responsible for digesting about 70% of the CO2. So if you're really worried about CO2, then save the ocean first, okay? Especially because algae are very sensitive, so save the ocean, okay? So that's just an interesting little fact for you. All right, so now we have all of this information, and also we've kind of answered the controlling ideas as well. I'm sure you're starting to think about who is more responsible. So you can kind of go either way. You could say humans are the most responsible for the fast climate change, or you could say Earth is the most responsible, but humans are contributing. Either one is okay as long as you can make a good argument, okay? However, before you jump into your argument, think about the solution. Now, let me speed up a little bit here, members, to show you how rapid or how quick you can think about these to come up with ideas. Okay, so solution. I cannot change the natural evolution of Earth, at least not without a lot of science fiction. So I cannot change the natural evolution of the Earth, but I can do my part as a human to reduce my impact, right? That makes logical sense. So we can get into a lot of the science of why Earth is changing its weather patterns, and a big part of that is the Earth's relative rotation and distance from the sun is always changing, right? And so here, think about this. This is some more food for thought. The Earth's relative distance and rotation to itself and the sun, I should say to the sun and itself, is constantly changing. So this is affecting climate. And I believe now scientists think that the sun is also changing, and you could make that argument as well. So the sun is also changing in its intensity, and this changes weather. Okay, so think about the sun as this giant ball of fire. It's like a big campfire, and it's not always burning the same, right? So if you have a big solar flare, then that changes weather patterns as well, right? Okay. So now we've got a lot of good ideas, and we have all the information that we need to write an introductory paragraph. So your IELTS Task 2 essay should have introductory paragraph. So Task 2 has introduction, body 1, body 2, maybe a body 3. Depends on how quick you can write and how you organize your essay, and a conclusion. Okay, so that will make up your essay. All right. Now, let's start with the introduction. So the introduction has a hook, has background information. okay, and has your thesis. And I will go through each of these with you in detail. So the hook is an interesting statement that catches your reader. And again, just some information there. A lot of people say, oh, it's not important to write a hook. That's what my teacher said. The IELTS essay doesn't need a hook. If your teacher says that, they're not teaching you for a Band 7, 8, 9 essay. Okay, so Band 7, 8, 9 essays do usually need a hook. Okay, because technically, this is not Adrian is telling you this, and it's not my teacher is telling you this. Technically, when you write an essay, if you look up essay writing on Google in English literature, it will tell you, begin your essay with a hook to introduce the topic and capture the reader's attention, because you want your audience to focus on the information, and the hook helps you to do that. So if you want to get a Band 8 or a Band 9 on your IELTS Task 1, Task 2, sorry, I should say Task 2, if you want to get a Band 9 on your IELTS Task 2, I highly recommend writing a hook, okay? Okay, this is my hook. People care about life. People want to survive. The topic is climate change. I'm keeping it simple. There's lots of different hooks that you could write here. I'm simply saying climate change is a major concern for human survival. Now, this kind of is also hinting for the background, which is introducing the importance of this topic, right? Why are we talking about this? Well, obviously, humans want to survive, and climate change is a serious worry, right? We're all like, oh, what do we do, right? If I go out and I'm burning up in the summer heat, that makes me worried, right? So climate change is a major concern for human survival. That's my hook. Now, I want to write my background. Background includes the importance of the information, which I kind of have in my hook here. It's the importance and definition. Okay. And so I'm going to do that. So climate change is marked by rapid temperature and weather pattern differences each year that greatly impact life on Earth. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do for my definition. And this is simple writing because I already thought about all of this during my planning. So this is where some students think, well, if I spend time planning my essay, like 5 minutes, like you just suggested planning my essay, then I'm wasting time. Not really, because that 5 minutes will save you time. So planning actually saves you time because you know what you need to write, okay? All right, and then if I really want to, I can write a little bit more about the importance. I might not do that, especially in the computer-based exam, because there I would take more time to review my essay, and I already have the importance in my hook, so I might not include that here. But if I really wanted to, I could write another sentence, and I could write something like humans and as well as all flora and fauna depend on stable climate for sustenance. Okay, so plants, animals, we rely that the weather stays relatively stable or balanced. I'm using Grammarly, by the way, while I'm doing this to learn a little bit. It says depend on a stable climate. I think stable climate would be okay, but anyway. Zarina, don't use the first person in the hook. Just make that statement general instead of writing, I believe Earth changes happens when it develops. Okay. Mal writes, there is no denying that climate change is significantly changing. It is easily observed in individuals' lifetime. Mal, you have the word, it's a little bit awkward. Simplify it, Mal. Simplify it. I'm not digging it. Okay. Rajveer writes, it is a drastic change in the Earth's temperature and weather patterns from year on year and affects the living species on Earth. Rajveer, too complicated, so it sounds awkward and there's some mistakes in there. Simplify it. Dwee writes, why climate change appear on the news and out-of-home banner in the street? Dwee, don't ask a question in an essay. Your goal is to answer questions. It's not to ask your reader questions. So don't use questions in your IELTS essay. Yes, we use questions sometimes in writing, but don't do it in your IELTS task 2. It's not a good strategy. Okay, most professors do not like to see questions in essays because they circle it and they say, just give me the answer, don't ask me the question. Okay, so your goal as the author is to answer questions and not ask questions mostly. All right, I could get into this in more detail, but for now, just think about answers, not questions. Okay. Baljit writes, climate change is a bigger issue in today's world. It's not a bigger issue, it's a major issue, Baljit. So be a little bit stronger there. Okay. Climate change is referred to increase in not only temperature, but in weather patterns. It's not an increase in weather patterns. I think that's a little bit awkward. So careful with your word modification, Baljit. Okay. Amra writes, climate change is a major concern for mankind. Good, Amra, that's a good hook. Climate change is a drastic change. Don't repeat change. We don't want to read change. So climate change is drastic fluctuations in temperature and weather patterns from year to year. So Amra, change that second word, change, to fluctuation. This has happened because of a failure in environmental policy. Is that your thesis then, Amra? Because it sounds like it. It sounds like you're making an argument point there. Careful. Okay. So, here's my thesis, okay? Thesis is my argument, and I'm going to take an interesting thesis here just for fun. So thesis is my argument and structure of the essay. All right. Here is my thesis. And I'm rethinking and thinking it as I'm writing it. And I'm going to look at, let's see, Amrit's paraphrase here, because I thought there was some really good words there that Amrit was using. So just give me 2 seconds while I look at what you wrote there, Amrit. Yeah, okay. So I believe that Earth's natural development is the major or the main cause of climate change. Although human action is accelerating the process, and it is up to people, and it is the responsibility of people to, let's see what Amrit wrote there, to halt it. Okay, so that is my thesis statement. Let me kind of move this all. Well, no, let me move this all a little bit down so you can see my full introduction here. So we're targeting a band 9 here, okay? Keep that in mind, all right? So for all of you who are like, well, I can't write like this, don't say that. You can't write like this yet, maybe, but you will be able to with practice. And for students going to university, you must write like this with practice to get good grades and a good degree, or do a good master's in university, okay? All right, so here's my introduction. Climate change is a major concern for human survival. Climate change is marked by, or if I want to paraphrase climate change here, I can use global warming, right? Global warming is marked by rapid temperature and weather pattern differences each year that greatly impact life on Earth. Humans, as well as all flora and fauna, depend on a stable climate for sustenance. I believe that Earth's natural development is the main cause of climate change, although human activity is accelerating the process, and it is the responsibility of people to halt it. So here, I not only answered the question that I think Earth is mostly responsible, but I also expressed to the reader that humans are definitely contributing their own part to speed up the process. And I also let the reader know that it's the responsibility of humanity to change this, to halt this or slow this process down. So I'm paying attention to every single question or every single part of the question in this task too. Now I can get into my body paragraph 1. And body 1 will be a topic sentence. It will be an explanation and an example for point 1, which of course here is Earth's natural development. As the main cause of climate change. Okay. So for my topic sentence, and keep writing here with me, members, I am paying attention. I'm just picking up speed so we can really get going on this essay now that we have clarity. Okay. All right. Zarina, flora means plant life, all the plant life, and fauna means animal life. So fauna, animals, flora, plants. Think of flower, flora. Okay, fauna. All right. Okay, good. Yeah, keep asking me questions, keep writing. Okay, so topic sentence is a deeper definition of point 1. Okay, so Earth is constantly changing in its geography and atmosphere, which has an influence, a direct influence on temperatures and weather patterns. Okay. All right, so that's my topic sentence. I'm just going to write a little T here. So you know that that's my topic sentence, and that's my deeper definition. Again, it's IELTS. I can think more about this and go into deeper discourse, but let's keep in mind it's a 300 to 350 word essay for that band 8, band 9. So I don't need to, you know, turn into a full-on scientist here. So Earth is constantly changing its geography and atmosphere, which has a direct influence on temperature and weather patterns. And then this is the explanation. Okay. And this is my explanation. Some people might not agree with it, but I think it's a valid one. So as the internal temperature of the Earth cools, as volcanoes Let's go with what Rajveer said here as well. Why not, right? Erupt. And as the Earth's trajectory or rotation and trajectory around the sun change, so too does the cooling and warming of surface temperatures. This all leads to a changing chemical makeup of the atmosphere. Okay, so that's my best explanation, because I'm not a scientist, but this is information that I can gather from my middle school, high school studies. I didn't actually study. I had one geography class in university, and it was a introductory class, and it was human geography, so it wasn't focusing on this. So it's not like I'm a scientist, okay? This is just basic knowledge that I have gathered from my life, and hopefully you have too. So this is where all of your school knowledge comes in handy. There's no doubt that in the IELTS that is important. If you've forgotten a lot of this knowledge, then read a bit of science, okay? So now my explanation, okay, or my example. And the example should be real world. Indeed, history has shown major climate change without the impact of human civilizations, such as the Ice Age 10,000 years ago, when temperatures, and by the way, I don't know if anybody's been reading about this, but new science shows that the Ice Age happened much faster than people believed. So they're starting to realize that it probably wasn't like in school when I was little. They said, oh, it slowly happened from one year to the next. But now there's a lot of new evidence which shows that the Ice Age actually happened very quickly, and that's why animals froze so fast. So years ago, when temperatures dropped suddenly, and much of the Earth's surface was covered with ice. Glaciers, if we have that vocabulary. Okay, now connecting sentence to the next paragraph, right? However, that is not to state that humans are not contributing to global warming. Okay, so that is my body paragraph 1. And now I'm going to review it. You should always review your body paragraphs before you go to your next paragraph. Okay, so look for information mistakes, look for spelling mistakes, make sure that it's clean and clear. Okay, so Earth is constantly changing its geography and atmosphere, which has a direct influence on temperatures and weather patterns. As the internal temperature of the Earth cools, as volcanoes erupt, and as the Earth's rotation and trajectory around the sun so too does the cooling and warming of surface temperatures. This all leads to a changing chemical makeup of the atmosphere. I'm not too happy with that sentence, but I can leave it. Okay. Indeed, history has shown major climate change without the impact of human civilization, such as the Ice Age 10,000 years ago, when temperatures dropped suddenly and much of the Earth's surface was covered by glaciers. However, that does not state that humans are not contributing to global warming. Okay. And then body paragraph 2. So body 2, same thing. Topic sentence, explanation, example. Okay. And again, students, we're going for that band 9 here, right? All right. Let's see. Rajveer writes, Earth's continuous development causes changes to the atmosphere, which is mainly responsible for rising temperature and changing weather patterns. Rajveer, that's a nice, clear topic sentence. Mal says, if we go back in history, we can notice a similarity of circumstances and conditions of the Earth's atmosphere. One example is the Ice Age, where the change was rapid, sudden, and devastating. Mal, very nice example. Okay, good. Now we're thinking, now we're cooking. Here we go with body paragraph 2. And as you can tell, I'm definitely paying attention to what our students are writing. It's good writing. Okay, so certainly. And notice how I'm not using on the one hand, on the other hand. Too many students use it. It's not original, doesn't get high band scores. Okay, certainly human industrialization Okay, industrialization is the building of industries. By the way, students, it's not just vehicle emissions that are causing a lot of the problems, but it's industry, it's factories. Factories supposedly produce a lot more carbon dioxide than cars. One factory can produce as much CO2 as 1 million cars. So it's another kind of false information in the media that cars are doing all of this. Well, human consumption, factories that are burning coal, energy, that's creating even more. It's just like the trees and the algae in the ocean. Humans think trees, a lot of humans think trees are the biggest carbon sinks. No. Algae are the biggest carbon sinks. A lot of people think cars are the biggest carbon producers. Nope. Factories are the biggest carbon producers. Okay. So certainly human industrialization is directly impacting the pace at which climate change is happening. Explanation. Okay. The burning of fossil fuels by vehicles and factories, as well as the destruction of plant life in the oceans and on land, lead to rapid increases of carbon dioxide, small carbon dioxide, which results in a greenhouse effect. This effect traps the sun's energy in the atmosphere and increases temperatures worldwide. Okay. All right. Therefore, and I'm not, I'm keeping in mind that I have 40 minutes. I have to review my essay. So I'm not going to write a third paragraph here because I'm starting to really run out of time, right? So, therefore, the only possible way for people to slow climate change is through human action. This means using alternative energy sources like wind and solar, as well as decreasing consumption and saving oceans and forests. Okay, so that would be my body paragraph 2. Okay, so now I got my body paragraph 1, I've got my body paragraph 2, and I'm going to review my body paragraph 2. So certainly human industrialization is directly impacting the pace at which climate change is happening. The burning of fossil fuels by vehicles and factories, as well as the destruction of plant life in the oceans and on land, leads to rapid increases in carbon dioxide, which results in a greenhouse effect. Effect should be an A here. It's saying E, but I think it's an A. This effect traps the sun's energy in the atmosphere and increases temperatures worldwide. Therefore, the only possible way for people to slow climate change is through human action. This means using alternative energy sources like wind and solar, as well as decreasing consumption and saving oceans and forests. Okay, now my conclusion. In conclusion, okay, and the conclusion has 3 parts. Okay, points restated, argument strengthened, and take-home message. All right, those 3 parts create the conclusion. The conclusion is not just a simple repeat of your introduction, especially not if you are going for that Band 8, Band 9. Okay. Dewey writes, since the Earth emerged, Dewey, when you're writing Earth and you refer to Mother Earth, like our planet, it's better to write it with a capital E. Otherwise, Earth can be misinterpreted for the Earth like the soil. Okay. So let me just write this point for everybody. It's a common mistake. I do it too. But Earth equals planet Earth. It's the name of our planet, so it makes sense to write it capital Earth, planet Earth. And Earth, written with small, is soil. Okay, the Earth that that plants grow in. Okay, versus the Earth that plants grow on. Okay, think about it that way. Okay. All right. So in conclusion, Earth changes in conclusion, climate change happens with or without humans. However, people are speeding up this process with modernization. I do believe that the natural evolution of our planet is mostly responsible for global warming, but I also believe that it is up to every individual to slow this process. Okay, so that is now my conclusion, and I have my completed essay. Let me take a look from the beginning. When you're practicing at home, what you should do is you should reread the question and then reread the essay. If it's a good essay, you will feel it. And if you show your friend, if you show your teacher, they will say, yeah, okay, I got it. It works. Here we go. So let's look at the question. IELTS Task 2 Writing. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Some people believe that humans are mostly responsible for climate change, while others think that it is a natural part of Earth's evolution. What do you think is the main cause of climate change, and what can be done to slow it down? All right. That's the question. Let's look at our answer. Here we go. Climate change is a major concern for human survival. Global warming is marked by rapid temperature and weather pattern differences each year that greatly impact life on Earth. Humans, as well as all flora and fauna, depend on a stable climate for sustenance. I believe that Earth's natural development is the main cause of climate change, although human activity is accelerating the process, and it is the responsibility of people to halt it. Earth is constantly changing its geography and atmosphere, which has a direct influence on temperatures and weather patterns. As the internal temperature of the Earth cools, as volcanoes erupt, and as the Earth's rotation and trajectory around the sun change, so too does the cooling and warming of surface temperatures. This all leads to a changing chemical makeup of the atmosphere. Indeed, history has shown major climate change without the impact of human civilizations, such as the Ice Age 10,000 years ago, when temperatures dropped suddenly and much of the Earth's surface was covered by glaciers. However, that does not state that humans are not contributing to global warming. Certainly, human industrialization is directly impacting the pace at which climate change is happening. The burning of fossil fuels by vehicles and factories, as well as the destruction of plant life in the oceans and on land, leads to rapid increases in carbon dioxide, which result in a greenhouse effect. This effect traps the sun's energy in the atmosphere and increases temperatures worldwide. Therefore, the only possible way for people to slow climate change is through human action. This means using alternative energy sources like wind and solar, as well as decreasing consumption and saving oceans and forests. In conclusion, climate change happens with or without humans. However, people are speeding up this process with modernization. I do believe that the natural evolution of our planet is mostly responsible for global warming, but I also believe that it is up to every individual to slow this process. That's my take-home message for everybody. Okay. All right. Amrit, if you're confused by using the same example in the two paragraphs, send me an email. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this essay, you notice that I didn't use it that way. Okay. But I'm definitely happy with this essay. Ask yourself, did Adrian's essay convince you that the Earth is mostly responsible? Did Adrian's essay give you an answer to the solutions and the human element? If you feel like I did, if you feel like, yes, Adrian kind of convinced me that, whatever we do, climate will change, unless we use technology to stabilize the Earth's climate, but that's a bit sci-fi, I think, for now. We are doing it. I mean, there are weather missiles that we're using, and we're starting to think that way, but let's not go there for the IELTS exam, okay? So don't overcomplicate for the IELTS exam, okay? Don't start writing about weather missiles, all right? So that is the essay. Students, that's all the time I have too, but I urge you to practice your writing and send it to us. You can send me your writing for a free band score estimate to adrian@aehelp.com. Members, practice, send us your essays, and you can also get editing help on our websites. So certainly go to aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Both of those websites have lots of help for you to improve English, writing, communication skills for work, for business, and for university. You can use the code PATTERN20 for a 20% discount, not just because of changing weather patterns, but because of changing patterns of the IELTS paper-based exam. Okay? All right. So, another class coming up in 30 minutes. That will be reading, and that reading topic will be on the English language. So, kind of an interesting read. Come back for that, okay? 30 minutes. Another class. That will be a class open for all subscribers. So, subscribe to the channel, click the bell button, get notifications. The next class, if you are a subscriber, you can join the chat and read with me and answer questions with me. So let's do it together. Great writing, everybody. I did kind of out of the corner of my eye look at some other content there, and that was really nice to see. Nice to see so many members in the class. That was fantastic. Good job, everybody. See you in half an hour. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from Victoria for now, and I will be back soon with IELTS reading. Ciao.